Welcome to the Homeschool Show from North Carolinians for Home Education. I'm Amanda Wares, your host, and my co-host today is Melanie Willis. Hey, Melanie.
Hi, how are you today?
Doing well, doing very well. All right, what do we have today?
Well, we're going to have an interview that I did with Andrea Hall, and then we're going to talk a little bit about working and homeschooling at the same time, and a little bit about reading and when an appropriate time to start reading would be. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about our Thrive conference coming up. And so we're really looking forward to that, and we'll give you a little bit more news. So, Amanda, let me ask you some questions about this working and homeschooling, because you have some parents that are working from home and homeschooling, and then you have parents that actually have to leave the home to homeschool. So what kind of advice do you have?
I know. And I feel like as more and more people start to homeschool, and let's face it, the economy is terrible. Many families are faced with having both parents being forced to work full time, sometimes outside the home, sometimes in the home. I really do get asked about this and see it asked about out on the interwebs very often.
Yes.
I think, it's super common. And I'm so glad that in this interview, Andrea does talk about that. She is a working homeschool mom, so that is wonderful to have her advice. I usually tell people to think about what resources they have around them. Don't automatically assume that homeschooling is not possible for you if you have to work outside the home, because it absolutely is possible. There's so many different resources. There's so many different ways. Homeschooling doesn't have to look one certain way. You don't have to homeschool from 8 a.m. till 3 p.m, right? And so I know plenty of people that have done a lot of different things. I know a mom who went through a divorce and she had to go to work full time. And it ended up that she had a really good friend, and she and this really good friend kind of teamed up. And so when her friend was off work, the friend homeschooled their children. And when she was off work, she homeschooled their children. So it was kind of a team approach. And I thought that was so brilliant.
Yeah.
And it met the needs of both their families. I thought that was great. I know some parents that do opposite shifts. If they have small children and they both need to work, they do opposite shifts and just make it work. I know people, if they're able, that have hired like a nanny that also does some of the, like, supervises the homeschool.
Right. Yeah, because really once your kids get to that point where they are reading and writing on their own, there is so much of this homeschool journey that they can be self-led on, and you don't have to be with them the whole time that they're doing school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, there's a lot, I think, as homeschooling grows more and more, there's also a lot of situations where a lot of resources out there, like even daycare centers, are willing to work with homeschool students and homeschool families, and they'll supervise, the kids doing some schoolwork while they're there. Or there's just a lot of different possibilities out there. So let me also put a plug in. There are, when you come to Thrive in May, there are going to be several workshops just for families who have, who work, either work from home, work outside the home. So just for you. We also, NCHE has a Facebook group just for working parents who are homeschooling. And that is a wonderful resource to be able to ask questions and say, hey, how do you handle this situation? What do you do? What ideas do you have? And get it from people who are in the exact same situation that you are. So please take advantage of those opportunities.
Yes. Just, there's nothing about homeschooling that we have to put in a box. There's just so many different ways to think about doing things. We're not in that public school situation where we're there, like you said, all day long, it doesn't have to look like that. It can look so different and according to what your needs are for your family.
Absolutely. All right. So let's check out this interview that you did. I think Andrea, she has been at our conference before, so I've been able to meet her, and she is just a dear. She is so wonderful and has just a wealth of information and wisdom to share. So I think all of you out there, you are going to love her as much as we do. So let's check out this interview.
So, hi everyone. We are here today with Andrea Hall, who is the founder and director of the EPIC Homeschool Network. So, good morning, Andrea. Could you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Andrea. I'm the founder and director of EPIC Homeschool Network. I am a homeschool mom of 3 kids. So they're now ages 17, 14, and 12. I feel like I just had a pop quiz. And I've been homeschooling from the very beginning. I actually started homeschooling triplets. I'm a teacher by profession. So when I gave birth to my first daughter, in 2008, one of my husband's students, because he was teaching elementary, they wanted, they needed a change, and they found out that I was taking some time off to have my baby. And they said, well, would you homeschool my kids? And I said, sure. So I homeschooled triplets, and that's kind of how I got into the homeschool arena. So I've been homeschooling, even though my oldest is 17, I've been homeschooling, for 17 years because I homeschooled other people's kids before homeschooling my own.
That's awesome. And I know what you mean about keeping up with all the kids and the dates. I have 6 kids. I used to carry a binder around with all the numbers. And I don't know. I'd show up at the doctor's office and I'd have to look and see which kid I brought with me. Which child do I have today?
Verify.
Yeah. All righty. So you will be one of our featured speakers at Thrive this year. And so one of your workshops is focused on homeschooling while working. And I will say this is definitely a growing population here in North Carolina. I get questions about how to do this at least every day. And so what kind of advice or suggestions do you have for those parents?
All right. So full transparency, I am a working homeschool mom. I mentioned that I was teaching and I actually still teach. So I teach for the public school system. So one of the advice that I like to give to families who are considering homeschooling is look at the flexibility of your job. So when I knew I wanted to homeschool, so I actually started looking for a job that would facilitate that. And at that time in 2008, online school was not a big thing. So I really didn't even know it existed. But because I decided I wanted to be home, I started looking. And that's actually how I found teaching online. So I've been teaching online since 2010. So before the pandemic, before this became a thing, I was teaching online. And it was because I was looking for it. So I would tell any working homeschool mom, look at your job right now and see, is there a way I could do it from home? Is there a way, you might not think that you could, but there probably is a way because you haven't really looked for it first. So I would try to see if you could work from home, but if you are stuck working outside the home, that's not an option, then I would also look at, I also recommend looking at your network, right? Look at your community, look at your homeschool community. So I mentioned when I started homeschooling someone else's kids. I was homeschooling triplets. So that mom, knew that I was a teacher. She knew she wanted her kids to be homeschooled, but she could not afford to stop working. So she hired me as her tutor. So I, look at the laws in the state to see how that can work out. But that's definitely something, look at your community. So you don't have to do it all by yourself. So I know another homeschool mom who's also a teacher, but she teaches in the classroom. So she's away during the daytime, but she sends her kids to like, I guess it's not so much a daycare because it is kind of like a school, but it's like a small school. So her kids are there during the day, just kind of for someone to watch them and oversee them. So like Sylvan Learning Academy or whatever learning center you might have in your area, just go there and propose like, hey, can you work with my kid or watch my kid? And then she would actually come home in the evening and she would homeschool them after work. So she wasn't really looking for them to give her kids the instruction, even though she wanted them to do some things like homework there, but she would do her instruction in the evening. So just think creatively. Like, it's not like a one size fits all. So just really be creative about it and you can make it happen.
And I think it's important for people to realize that, homeschooling doesn't have to look like public school. And because you're not waiting in line for things, it doesn't take as long to do. And I really found pretty quickly, once your kids can read and write, they can do so much on their own.
Yes.
So
That's a key thing.
Really important. So I guess I'd like to ask you, what is your favorite encouragement that you would offer to a new homeschooling parent?
I think my favorite encouragement to offer is, and it sounds really weird, but no one's going to ask your child at what age they started reading. Is my favorite encouragement to give, because I think sometimes as homeschooling parents, especially as a new homeschooling parent, you think like you're going to fail your child. They're 8 years old. They're not reading yet, or they're not reading as well as you want them to. And look at these other kids and blah, blah, blah. And you try to compare your child to other children. Don't do that. Like, no one's ever in an interview. That's never an interview question. So at what age did you start reading? They just want to know that you can read now. So that's like my favorite advice to give a new homeschool parent. I know it's kind of funny, but like, just go at the pace of your child. Like, really just go at the pace of your child. And if you go at that pace, they will thrive. They will succeed. Just, continue to work at it.
That's right. That's definitely, I think that's a huge one, is the not comparing, and your child being able to move at their own pace is part of the joy of homeschooling.
Yes.
And the reading thing. I remember when my husband went to Thrive, I think it was his second time there, and he came out of one of the workshops and he said, "Do you know it's okay that Joel doesn't read yet?" I was like, yes. And I guess whoever he had spoken with had said, had discussed about brain development and said, ultimately, you're looking around that age of 11. Well, 11 rolled around and Joel read. It was great.
And boys are so much different than girls. Like night and day. I have 2 girls and 1 boy, and the boy came last, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, he's different.
They are different, that is for sure. So I really look forward to seeing you back at Thrive this year. And so if anyone is watching this right now and is kind of like, should I go? Should I not go? What advice do you offer them?
Oh, you gotta go. You need to get plugged in the community, and you might not think you need it, but until you go, you'll never know the experience. And I've been at the Thrive conference. I felt refreshed. I felt poured into. Whenever I go to a homeschool conference, I leave refreshed and poured into. So it boosts your resolve to continue homeschooling. It will give you ideas to try out in your own homeschool. And then you also have the curriculum resources that you can explore, that you can see physically, instead of, oh, I see it on the website, but now you actually get to hold it in your hand. So just for those few reasons, I would say you gotta go. You gotta go.
Absolutely. Thank you for that so much. So any last thoughts or anything you could share about what you're going to be sharing at the conference?
So I'm going to be doing a few sessions, quite a few. I'm excited about each one of them. I'm going to be talking about being a working homeschooling mom, designing your own homeschool curriculum. So if you're like, I can't afford all this curriculum, I'm trying to do this as cheap as I can. So we're going to talk about designing your own homeschool curriculum. I'm even going to talk about how we can use AI as we're talking about designing your own homeschool curriculum. We're going to talk about making math meaningful. I mentioned I'm a teacher. I'm actually a high school math teacher. So making math meaningful, real world math for homeschoolers. So you want to come and check that out. And your 5-step success path to the best homeschool year ever. Okay, so I already mentioned working homeschool mom. So it's going to be lots of sessions. Those are the sessions I'm doing, just some of them, and there's so much more to see. So I hope to see you at Thrive. If you come, please find me, say hello, and just enjoy your homeschool journey, whatever it might be.
Wow, thank you. That all sounds wonderful. I am excited to come and see that myself. So thank you so much for being with us, and I look forward to seeing you there at Thrive.
So that was such a great interview, and I love being able to get these little tastes of our featured speakers before the conference so everybody can see them, hear them, get excited about what they have to share with us. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, she was so much fun to talk to and just so real. And I really look forward to seeing her at conference. Especially, I am crazy interested. It's a little late for my homeschool journey, but she talked about writing your own curriculum. And that sounds wonderful to me. I'd like to learn more about how to do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think she talked a lot about things that all of us can relate to, not just the working and homeschooling, but she talked about the reading.
Yes.
And not comparing yourself, not comparing your kids to other kids and all of that when you're children, and this is true. I've had a late reader, and I know you have as well, that, when they go to a job interview, nobody's going to ask them, when did you start reading? Yeah. I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. I love it. Well, and it's, because I spoke about Joel with her, and, and he really did. He hit that 11-year-old mark and did. But I have some that are quite a bit older than that now and still struggle, but they're still functioning, and it's going to be okay. And we're not going to give up. They're going to get there. They're going to get there. And it's wonderful if your child has something that they excel at, but it's okay if they don't. And that's the joy of homeschooling, is whatever they're excelling at, keep going, go on up, and what they're struggling with, you can sit there and wait for them to catch up instead of putting that snowball over them and then just never pick it up.
Exactly. I love that so much. I've seen it with my own kids, with so many other kids, that it doesn't have to be their whole school education experience doesn't have to be about what they struggle in.
Right.
That I always felt like if my kids had been in school, their whole school experience would have been about the struggle.
Right.
And it was so different because we did. I mean, with my son, who is dyslexic, who really didn't read till he was 10, we did focus on that. We worked on reading every single day.
Absolutely.
But that wasn't the whole focus of our school time. He had other things and are so able, all my kids, that had different struggles in different areas. They're so able now. I see them as adults to go out in the world and get jobs and, do ministry and live full lives. And I think that is so important. It's so easy. And I know it was for me when my kids were all little. It's so easy to get caught up in I'm failing them. They're going to be a failure forever, So I hope that interview with Andrea encouraged you. I hope that what I've said, what Melanie has said, our experience now having adult kids looking back can encourage you that really, really focus on, your own child's journey and what that needs to be, and not on what it looks like compared to anybody else.
Right. Because your child is no one else's child. And actually, I was just reminded, earlier today, I saw one of those memes going through Facebook where somebody was talking about, how often in a day they use their lessons from learning about parallelograms, and, how much more they would have enjoyed learning how to do their taxes. And so, and my husband actually does use all those lessons of parallelograms and calculus and all that stuff in his job. But how few and far between are those? And there's so many lessons that we can learn that are just life lessons that go along with us. We don't have to focus on the hard things that they're struggling with. If they're great at math, that's wonderful. But if not, let's just teach them how to live.
Exactly. I love that. That's so good. All right. Do we have any news?
Well, yes, I know you guys have been working really hard on the Thrive Committee, getting ready for conference. And so that's coming up really soon, at the end of May, May 22nd through 24th. But the early bird registration is up right now, and that ends next week, I believe. This week. It ends this week. February the 27th.
That's
And
right.
so
I
you
can't believe
really,
that's this week already.
you know, it's this week. You really do want to get in on that early bird pricing. If you think you are coming, now is the time to register, because unfortunately the price does get pricier as time goes on, and you don't want to wait and register when it's actually time to show up. Go ahead and get that pre-registration in now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best possible price. I know all of you homeschool families out there, you like a deal. I love a deal. This is a deal. So
while we're talking about pricing, Amanda, because there's two other things that can be mentioned here. One, Amanda, tell us about if it's your first time coming and you have preschoolers.
Indeed. Yeah, there are several opportunities. So first off, for registration, early bird is the best possible price for individual, for a couple, for a family. Absolutely. There are a few categories that can come for even better. So if you are a pastor who is not homeschooling, this is new this year, a pastor who is not homeschooling is able to register and come to the conference for free. So that is something we are extending to pastors. And this year, we're super excited about that. There's also parents of preschoolers. So if your oldest child is not yet 5 and you have not been to the conference before, those are the two things. You can come to the conference. You do have to pre-register, but you can come to the conference for free. And we just there is so much there for you. I've had people email me that have, 4-year-olds, 3-year-olds and say, is there anything there for me? Yes, there is. There are actually workshops just for preschool parents. There are gatherings just for preschool parents. And of course, all the things in the vendor hall. There are so many that are wonderful for preschool parents. So definitely check that out. If you go to the Thrive page on our website, nche.com/thrive, and look under registration, scroll on down. It's kind of a long page. There's a lot of information, but there are links there for those special populations.
Very good. And one other reminder about Thrive, there's just so much. If you are planning on bringing your children and you want to register them for the Giant Cow, that is a separate registration. So when you register for Thrive, the Giant Cow program is not part of that. You have to go fill out that second registration form. So you don't want to get caught there that we cannot have done that. And of course, you do not have to put your children in that. Your children are welcome to walk around with you and go into workshops with you and any of the other things that you'll be doing. They are welcome everywhere.
Correct. Yep, that's right.
And so also, Amanda, if you could tell us, I think we have the NCHEAC basketball state championships coming up.
Yes, it's so exciting. So maybe some people out there don't know, but NCHE has an athletic commission, and there are literally more than 100 sports teams, homeschool specific sports teams in the state of North Carolina that compete against each other. Right now it's basketball season and it's coming to an end. This weekend is the state basketball tournament where the teams are going to compete against each other for the state championship. That's happening February 28th and March 1st. It is in Raleigh on the campus of Wake Tech Community College. So that's a great thing. You can check that out at NCHEAC.com. A little bit different than NCHE.com, and click on basketball and it'll give you all the information.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. Yeah. So that's all we have today.
Absolutely. So as always, guys, please like, subscribe, share with your friends. And if you have any questions, comments, feedback for us, we love to get feedback. We love to hear from you, and we really do take it into account and use that feedback to shape our show as we go forward. So please do contact us. You can reach us at thehomeschoolshow@nche.com. So until next time, keep homeschooling with confidence and joy.